I have that overlay up,
Okay.
and the eyeball just came up. So people are going to start getting their notifications on their phone. That Porchcast Pottstown is live on the air
All
on
right.
Facebook and YouTube.
Great.
Still looking for those YouTube subscribers.
Right. Let's get up to our next milestone.
It's free to subscribe on YouTube.
We're at
There's nothing stopping you.
130. We have 130 subscribers.
Do we?
Yeah. That seems like it might be a little bit more than last time I
It
checked.
was. That's probably about 10 or so more. So
Excellent.
it's creeping up. And I get the notifications when people subscribe.
Okay.
So I can see who's subscribing. That's how I know who it is.
Keeping an eye on it.
Yeah, and I dropped off the stuff to Judy Owens, who was our 100th subscriber. She said that she enjoyed the little gifts.
Very nice.
And had already used the gift certificate to pub, drank the beer. I didn't hear anything about her going over to shoot pool yet.
Okay.
But there was a gift certificate for the billiards hall.
High Street Billiards.
Yes, I'm sorry.
So our next milestone will be 150 subscribers, right?
Yeah.
Which if every person here subscribed, we'd probably get there. It's a nice crowd down here at Pub
So
tonight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
we are
I don't care.
at Pottstown United Brewing.
It don't
Right.
matter.
To let people know that.
It don't matter. We ain't burgers,
251
man.
East High Street. We're live at Pottstown Brewing Company. I see more people joining us, so thanks for tuning in. I have this overlay up so that people aren't confused. Now that we have some people watching,
Right.
I'm going to take that down. Here's the other thing. Please, the chat function is open, and use it. Put your comments in there.
Chat away.
Let us know you're out there. Hit that like button, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. But we do like it when we know that people are out there and watching. Please make your comments
Make your presence known.
That's right.
Yes.
Today, on today's show, we're wrapping up our month-long local history
Hyper
month.
local.
We kept it all Pottstown. There was, we branched out a little bit to Valley Forge.
I would still call that local.
That's pretty local.
Right.
We went a little bit to Philadelphia.
Yep.
But then on the third episode,
Brought
I
it all
brought it all back to Pottstown.
Brought it all back home.
All back to Pottstown.
All roads lead to Pottstown.
So tonight, to wrap up Black History Month celebration, we have with us tonight Jonny Corson.
We got a comment from
NAACP.
Gypsy Chris asking if the sound is on. I don't know. Is the sound on?
Sound should be on.
Hmm.
Sound should be on, folks.
Yeah.
Somebody else chime in and let us know.
All right. Let's see. I'm asking her if she can hear us or not. Johnny, this is our standard.
So Johnny.
Oh, yes.
So you
Joe Rusevich says he can hear us.
So you
Gypsy Chris just has her sound on her device
Got it.
turned down. All right, go
so
ahead.
you went to Philly and Valley Forge first?
Yeah,
Well,
so
who'd you?
Oh, no, we just talked about it. We didn't
didn't
actually
go
go
there.
there.
I mean, you brought them here. Somebody from Philly
No,
and Valley.
no.
Oh,
So on the first episode where we covered local Black history, I talked about the Africans of the Patriots of African Descent Monument
yeah.
at Valley Forge.
Okay.
And we talked also about Charles Blockson and the Blockson Collection, which is the largest collection of African American history in the United States.
Okay.
It's housed at Temple.
Okay.
Charles Blockson is a historian from Norristown.
Okay.
And so we had a little bit of Rev War history
All
tied
right.
into that, right?
Yeah.
And then in the second episode, we talk about Dick and Dave Ricketts
Oh,
Do you
okay.
want to
Okay.
talk? Do you want
at
to?
the Ricketts Center. I will.
Okay.
And then in last week's episode, I talked about an incident related to the USS Ganges.
That was super
which
interesting.
Was a naval ship.
Mm-hmm.
It had the captain of the Ganges captured an illegal slave trading ship in the Caribbean, brought those people back to Philadelphia because he himself was not for slavery.
Okay.
So he brought them to Philadelphia because he knew he had a good chance of getting them released through the federal courts.
All right.
Because the federal courts in Philadelphia were more sympathetic to the abolitionist movement.
Okay.
he did get these people freed. And they were kind of, in a way, adopted by local families.
Hmm.
And one of the local families
Yeah.
was here in Pottstown. And these two freed African people established themselves here in Pottstown and became very successful farm owners up on Rattlesnake Hill over
Okay.
by Pine Forge.
Yeah.
So what I was saying was I was bringing those themes
Okay.
that we had talked to together.
Yeah.
But on this episode, I wanted to have a conversation.
I can move in with you now that I got my mask on.
Okay.
What I wanted to do on this episode was have Jonny Corson from the NAACP on just to talk about the history of the NAACP here in Pottstown, because you are the president of the Pottstown branch of the NAACP. So that's why we brought Jonny on the show today. Now, before we get into talking to Jonny, I do want to correct the record on something. On the episode,
Like all good news outlets, Matt,
I'm trying to be
we
responsible.
have a correction that needs to be made. So just like you see a correction in the inside of the New York Times when they get something wrong, they print a correction. We're here with our correction.
I'm here with the correction.
Right.
Joe Brown contacted Mike Snyder, who then contacted my parents, who then contacted me to let me know that I attributed Dick Ricketts Jr. as being the person that the Ricketts Center was named after. It was indeed Richard Ricketts Sr. I misspoke.
So Dick Ricketts, what we talked about, the athlete.
Junior.
He was the junior, the
Correct.
athlete.
Correct.
Right. But it was named for his father.
Correct.
All
Senior. I misspoke.
Okay.
All right. I made a mistake. I did not mean to discredit anyone.
Of course.
I am sorry that Joe got upset with what I said. So we're correcting the record.
All right.
Now, I will say this. Porchcast Pottstown is an open platform. We have a chat function for a reason. If I say something that you think is wrong, or you just don't agree with me, or Amy, or Jonny,
So I'm in trouble now, huh?
put it in the chat box. But I did want to make that correction.
Right. Thank you.
It's Ricketts Sr., not Junior. I apologize.
Correction made. All right.
Correction made. And I'll bring that up again at the end of the show as well in our news and updates.
News and updates.
So, Jonny, we were talking a little bit before the show started to try to get you warmed up, and there's more and more people tuning into the show, which is good. So what I want to do is just kind of start at the beginning, like start at the top of it, right? You are the president currently of the Pottstown Branch of the NAACP.
Yep.
How long have you been serving in that position?
Going on 7 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, prior to you, the president or the leader of the Pottstown Branch of the NAACP was Newstell Marable.
Newstell Marable.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And then after he passed away, there was some restructuring that went on. Is that a good way to say it?
Yeah. So what happened when Newstell got sick? The branch had fallen on a little bit of hard times. We lost a lot of members. A handful of us stayed involved, did the best we could. But when he got sick, when I went to see him, he asked me, he said, "Hey, Jonny, do me a favor. Can you get the branch back up and running?" And he said, I told him a yes. Not too long after that, he expired. He left us. So we started out at the Ricketts Center. I believe it was Mark Gibson, the late John Sutter, Gloria Boswell, Vicky Clifford, and my wife, myself, and Miss Marable, and Tyrone Robinson. I think that was a handful. Bob Edmond. We're like the first group that sat down. I hope I didn't leave nobody out. So we started the chapter there, and we branched out. We started recruiting members, and we contacted the national, and we started reorganizing, because there's a process you have to go through to reorganize.
Okay.
And eventually we got 50 members with the help of Pastor Ross, his church, Bishop Dedman, his church, and the combination of everybody pulling together, we got the chapter started again. And then we held an election, and I became the president, and been president ever since.
Been doing it ever since.
Been doing it ever since.
And then there was that. I was fortunate enough to be invited, and I helped out a little bit, tiny little bit, with that luncheon that you had. Once you
Yeah, we had a
restructured,
luncheon,
you had
yeah.
a luncheon at Sunnybrook,
Yes.
and that was kind of the relaunch of the
Yes.
Pottstown NAACP,
Yeah.
right?
They're coming out.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, since that time, have you seen an increase in your membership? Have you been successful in getting more and more people involved over the course
Yes.
of that time?
I believe at the time we only had 70 some members.
Okay.
Now we're over close to about 140,
Okay.
130, between 130, 150 members.
Okay.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
What's the elevator speech for the NAACP? Like, what's the mission statement or the vision statement, or what like, in a nutshell? What's
The mission statement really is to fight for the equality of everybody, for education, for social justice,
Right.
the civil rights of all Americans.
Right. So social justice and civil rights for
Yeah.
all people.
Yeah.
Right.
Education, economic development. Yeah.
and the NAACP was, I'm going to ask you some questions here. Now, I kind of know the answer to this. What year was the NAACP founded? The national overall organization?
1908.
Nine.
No, it was.
Was it?
No, wait a minute now. No,
All right.
it was a call went out in 1908
Okay.
after the Springfield riots,
Okay.
where there was a lot of lynching and there was a lot of violence towards African Americans.
Okay.
So a bunch of people got together, Otter B. Wells, and I got the names down, but
W.E.B. Du
W. E.
Bois.
Du Bois, and you had Mary Overton, I believe, a couple of Jewish people. They put the call out, and then in 1909 is when it actually
became established.
became established. But originally, 1908, the call went out because of the riots in Springfield, Illinois.
Okay. Now, here's kind of local. This is our kind of local connection to the founding of the NAACP. W.E.B. Du Bois was a sociology teacher at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. So, founded right here in the Schuylkill Valley, or one of the founding members came from that. So I think that's important to bring people to their knowledge and understanding too. So after this reorganization, you had the coming out party at Sunnybrook, which was a nice celebration. You had community leaders from all over the state come up to that at the Sunnybrook Ballroom.
Yes.
And after your restructuring, after you took the reins, what would you say was maybe the first challenge or the first issue that you tackled as the new chapter of the Pottstown Branch of the NAACP?
The first major issue, we had a couple of minor complaints with job discrimination that we handled, but one of the first major issues was actually fighting for the Ricketts Center and the YMCA.
Okay.
There were two of our baby community institutions that we fought for.
Okay.
Yeah. So one thing about the NAACP, we fight for anything that's good for the community. We fight for it. Anything that's bad that could hurt the community, we fight against it. So that we felt that the Ricketts Center and the YMCA were two good things that were good for the community, based on how diverse they are. The diversity that was involved with the Ricketts Center, me growing up in the Ricketts Center, seeing how powerful it was and impactful it was to a lot of people's lives, plus the mix of people that came there. There was always a label that the Ricketts Center was a black center, which was false. You had everybody coming in and out of the center, and everybody was impacted by the great clap of white. And then when I grew up running at the YMCA, you see the same thing, the diversity at the YMCA. You see so many different people at the Y. So Pottstown to me was a very diverse community. So to see two institutions like that to be taken away, I thought that was one of our reasons to jump on board and get involved. We've been fighting the Ricketts Center, Newstown. Now I've been fighting the Reverend Detman. We're fighting the Ricketts Center for the past almost 20 years. For some reason, the borough keeps wanting to get rid of it. I don't know why.
The argument from the borough is that it's a financial burden, right?
I don't know how that's a financial burden.
I agree with you. I was, as you know, I was very involved with the Ricketts Center. I was on the advisory committee for the Olivet Boys and Girls Club. Just like you, I spent plenty of days
Yeah.
over at the Ricketts Center when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So it's hard not to have grown up in Pottstown and not have some connection to the Ricketts Center.
Well, I'm a firm believer in it's not how much. Sometimes you got to stop. You shouldn't look at the cost of something. Look how much it pays.
Right.
What I mean by pays is what it pays when you're investing in your young people.
Right.
You give your young people a place to go. You give them something to do. You give them something where they have an avenue, because we have a community right now due to the mass exodus of manufacturing. There was not a lot of things for our young people to do. Now, when I was young coming up, you had Flags, you had Dollars, you had Dana's, you had Occidental, you had all these big manufacturing here in Pottstown that could keep the tax base low. So there was so many programs in Pottstown. When they left, they gutted the town.
Right.
So now the young people really had no after-school programs, really nowhere to go but to the center.
Right.
And we lost a lot of programs because of funding from the county and everywhere else.
Right.
So I believe that when you have an institution like that in a small community like this, you got to find a way to keep it going. You got to find a way to figure out how can we pay to keep investing in young people's lives.
Right. So the cost for the community is not just the financial cost of what it costs the borough, right? Is what does the cost of the socioeconomic impact of a center like that closing, because it's, cost the borough $200,000, whatever. I'm making that number up. Don't quote me on it, but
it was actually a fraction of what you just mentioned.
Yeah,
okay.
a fraction of it.
So
it was
what?
about
Like
$50,000.
$50,000.
It's what the borough's contribution was.
With all these.
Okay. So then what happens if you take that center away? The impact is so much further reaching than just that $50,000, which is of course a big number, but not in the overall budget of the borough. It's small.
Not when you're talking about a $4.5 or $5 million budget.
Sure.
$50,000 is a lot of money.
Right.
And I agree with Johnny that in my opinion always was that the Ricketts Center was kind of underutilized, right? The community as a whole. I'm not pointing any fingers. Because all of us have a role in this. But the Ricketts Center was underutilized. We never as a community fully realized the potential of the Ricketts Center. And to kind of back up Johnny's point, we had an exodus of manufacturing and jobs in Pottstown. Now in 2022, just like we talked about the Pottstown Progress Lunch, we're starting to see those jobs come back into Pottstown. You know what I mean? We talked about that renewable energy plant that they're getting ready to build. 150 jobs there, right? They're going to be building the Iron Globe Amphitheater. That's going to create some jobs on some level.
It certainly will create jobs during the building of it. Say it takes 2 years to build that thing. There'll be 50 to 100 people working on it every day.
Every day. And then, when we look down at where some of these plants that Johnny talked about in our industrial center, there is no open, large span industrial space left in Pottstown. It's all full. So they're not the same type of jobs. They're not the same scale of jobs. But jobs and business are returning to Pottstown.
Right.
If this was one of the things that I tried to do when I was involved in the Ricketts Center, was create opportunities for kids who came to the Ricketts Center to get involved in STEAM and STEM programs, right? And give those kids an early introduction into science, technology, engineering, arts, and math.
Right.
And there are some of these industries in Pottstown that have programs within them. So, for instance, Dana at one point in time, I'm talking historically now. I don't know currently. I'm talking about things that happened in the past.
Right.
Dana had a program for middle school students to start getting involved in STEM and STEAM. The Pottstown School District has what used to be the 21st Century program. In my mind, the Ricketts Center would be a perfect bridge or gateway between those two things, between the school district and industries that wanted to bring students into their education process, their training process.
Right.
Now, I have to say one thing. The center was booming again under Crystal Williams.
Okay.
But for some reason, they shut that down. That wasn't good enough. And, whatever happened there, but people got involved. But under Crystal Williams, that center was packed every
Okay.
night. She had so many programs like you're talking about.
Right.
She was
So
bringing,
what time frame are you talking about? Like what years was that?
I don't know you. I can't give you
Like
exact.
recently, 10
No,
years ago,
no, yeah,
or
it's
20 years
about
ago?
20 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, she
There's-
really had a jump in it. And for some reason, politics got involved, whatever, and
I was just
because
gonna
it was
say,
just growing. It was just growing. She had so many programs. She had dance programs. She had
Yeah.
STEM programs. She was taking the kids on, taking them out doing gardening in the community. She was just doing so many. She had basketball programs going. She had weightlifting. She had everything back, art programs. She was very engaged with the community. Plus, people knew her.
Mhm.
And that's one thing about being a director of the center. The community has to know you. The children and the children's parents have to know you.
Sure.
You know, she had a staff of people like Keith Lacey, Chris Jackson that worked there, Steve Warren, John Brinkley. So them guys, they knew the kids in the community. So they had a relationship with the kids community. I'm talking about the teenagers, the young adults. So that when they seen them out on the street somewhere, hey, how you doing, Mr. Keith? How you doing, Mr. Chris? You know, how you doing, Miss Crystal?
right.
So they had a relationship outside of the Ricketts Center. And that's why it was so valuable. It was valuable like that when I was growing up with the staff they had.
Right.
They can go back to your door, knock on your door, and tell your mom and dad you were acting up in the
Right.
center. You know, you don't want that. You did not want to be barred from the center.
Right.
You know, I heard a
Right.
story
There's some
where
accountability,
a group
right?
of young adults, teenagers were hanging out on the corner, and they were getting loud, and they seen Mr. Keith Lacey come to the street. They was like, hey, here come Mr. Keith Lacey. We don't want them to see
We
us.
don't want any
So he
trouble.
get kicked
Right.
out of the center. You know, so, you didn't want Papa throwing you out the center either.
Right.
So you had to look in the window, look at everybody else.
Right.
So,
So the Ricketts Center kind of became your adopted program, or one of your
Yeah.
first adopted programs. And then one of the other things that I'm familiar with that the Pottstown NAACP did, weren't you involved in going over to Daniel Boone to address some racial tensions that were brewing up there?
yeah, but when we add one more institution,
Okay.
Gruber Pool.
Yeah, he-
Gruber Pool
Yeah.
was one of the most diverse places. That's why seeing you as a young man, as a
I
lifeguard,
was the
you and
assistant
your brother.
manager. Yeah, I was the assistant manager.
Yeah.
My brother,
Wasn't he a lifeguard?
he was too.
Yeah, I remember seeing you guys.
Listen, I attribute the Gruber Pool to the beginnings of my career
Yeah.
in not just in parks and recreation,
Yeah.
but in law enforcement, because
Yeah.
it was through my work at Pottstown Parks and Recreation that I built up enough
Mhm.
resume to get hired by the Montgomery
Mhm.
County, to then get hired by Chester County,
Mhm.
to then get hired by the
you
federal
were
government.
already a lifeguard, so you're policing people with your whistle.
And all of that
No,
stuff.
but see, he made me want to be a lifeguard because he had all the girls over there, him and his brother. You know,
We
every time
know,
they walk
yeah.
past, get up in the
We
chair.
know what it's
I'm in the
about.
pool, all
We
girls
know
look
why
like
you
him.
love
I
it,
said, "Oh, I want to be a
right?
lifeguard."
No, and I think it's in a lot of ways it's a shame what happened to the pool. And when I came back to Pottstown in my 20s, I got involved again with Pottstown Parks and Recreation.
Mhm.
And ultimately, what killed the pool was the fact that it was built on soil that was never meant to sustain
Mhm.
a pool that large.
Mhm.
But there's probably some way.
So was it
somehow-
unsafe?
Yeah, it was just literally sinking into the ground.
Yeah, but they didn't really invest that. I don't know that part, but I know that nobody really invested in the pool. Mr. Gruber gave it cost free.
Right.
All you had to do was maintain it.
Right.
I mean, he built it, if I'm correct.
Right. But they
And it
didn't do
seemed to
like
me it wasn't maintained.
they didn't do the appropriate boring study on the soil before they could.
Yeah, but
Well,
they didn't keep
maybe
it
not.
maintained.
Yeah.
The pumps and the. I remember you could walk on the cement. It got so bad that the cement would cut your feet. You know, then it get chipped. It was just bad. They just let it get run down.
Right.
And I don't understand why that happened. But when I was in school, everybody was excited to go down to. That was your summer vacation.
Sure, because you
Which
could
means
go,
at the pool.
you could go down there without. It was like you just had to pay to
Oh,
get in for
man,
the
you-
day, right?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
see so many people laid out on their
Right.
towels. So many
And
different
then,
people.
uh,
Black, white, Hispanic. You just seen Asian. You seen so many people, and
So
everybody was
could
just
you
engaging.
go without your parents?
Yeah, your parents would
Yeah.
drop you off, or you could walk
So
down.
how
got
old
your
did you have to
certain
be to go without a parent?
You just had to pass the swimming test.
Yeah.
So you could, if you were 6 and you could
And
pass
you
the
could pass
swimming.
the swimming test. You
Yeah.
could go. Yeah.
Ron Neely, my
That
brother.
sounds like the best childhood ever.
Yeah.
Right? You just
Yeah.
walk down there to the
Yeah.
pool
Yeah.
and hang out all day.
Yeah, my brother-in-law Ron Neely ran the pool at one time. Remember Ron
Yeah, I
Neely?
know Ron.
You know, that's his sister right here. My wife Paul is here, but He ran a pool and he was strict with that swimming test.
He was.
Oh my goodness.
What, do you have to like
mess
tread
around.
water for
Yeah,
a minute? Or?
You had to swim 25 yards,
Okay.
and then you had to be able to tread water, I think, for like 20 seconds or something like this.
He made me go from one end to the next 2 or 3 times, nonstop, and then do that before I could go in the diving well.
He gave you an extra hard
Oh,
test.
he gave a lot of us young ones. He was strict.
So wait, what's 25 yards? Is that one lap? Is that one lap?
One lap.
Not even a lap and back. It's just there.
Just one.
Not even there and back,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then tread water.
Tread water.
Yeah.
Even I could probably do that.
The idea was that the kid could be able to stay on top of the water long enough for a lifeguard to get to him if they got in trouble.
Right.
Now, I have to say this was a big push on the pool out North End. I was engaged with that a little bit. The CDC says it's an epidemic for African Americans and Hispanics, low-income people, because they cannot swim. It's an epidemic for drowning.
Right.
And that's another thing why it goes back to me saying the cost and what it pays.
Yes.
There's so many African American kids learned how to swim. Well, now they don't have that opportunity to swim.
Do they swim?
Where can they go?
So the kids in elementary school in Pottstown used to go to the YMCA to learn how to swim.
Yeah,
Does that still happen?
They did at
I'm
one
not
time.
sure.
My son learned how to swim at the Y, but I don't know if they still do that.
I think it was
Harrison
it was
went. I'm
either
sure your kids went.
I think it was in 6th grade.
I thought it was elementary school.
Was it?
Does anybody know? Do we have anybody watching the show that can answer that?
Remember that Harrison and Andrew were in 6th grade. Used to be in elementary school in Harrison. No,
it was 5th grade.
I don't know.
5th grade. Elementary went through 5th grade. So if there's anybody watching the show that can tell us if the Pottstown School District students still go to the YMCA to learn how to swim, Elizabeth
question?
Yes, we got 2 people saying 3rd grade. Does that still exist? So when you've got a community pool that serves a diverse population, a lot of African American population, and then you remove that from the community, then now you've got kids that don't have an opportunity to learn how to swim. And it really is an epidemic.
Yeah, it's an
right?
epidemic. Yep. It's good.
Dangerous.
And there's been the plight of the public pool in Pottstown. It's and then the Y tried to take over the former colonial pool over in Stowe.
Where's that? Okay.
It's over in Stowe off of Constitution.
I was involved with that
Avenue
too. Trying to keep that open.
Yeah, and that became a maintenance issue, and the Y didn't have enough money to run it. It's really been a struggle since the Groover Pool went away.
But historical fact, New Stowe Marable, Sam Green, and I believe Gigi Glenn, handful of other African Americans, they had nowhere to swim. So Sunnybrook was not allowing us to go to that pool.
We've talked about that a lot.
I wasn't allowed to.
Yeah.
I remember not being allowed to get into Sunnybrook.
See, now
same thing with North End.
North End, yes. Now what New Stowe and them did, they went down there and they climbed over the fence to go jump in the pool, and that stirred up an outcry, which helped spur to get us to do a pool.
Yeah.
So the NAACP was involved with establishing the Groover Pool. To be radical, they had to climb over the fence of a private pool.
Yeah. No, there was a lot of that happened in the 60s. You know how there was sit-ins or there was swim-ins where they would get a bunch of black people and they would go to private pools or hotel pools, because pools, just like everything else, I mean, we even talked about it on an earlier episode. Even cemeteries were segregated.
Yeah.
Pools were segregated places too. So.
Yeah, you put your foot in a pool at a white hotel, they drain the water out.
Sure. Right.
That's how bad it was.
Really
just put your foot in the water.
I know.
So
anyway, let's move on.
Yeah, let's go. Let's talk kind of about
a
success story. No, you got to remember, I was running around all summer outside, so I get dark as night when I'm out in the sun. But everybody knew my family. So
it's important
it was
to
hard.
know that these things didn't happen that long ago.
Not too long ago, 40, 50 years
You're
ago.
talking 35 years ago, 30 years ago.
I'm talking about in the 80s.
Yeah,
I was
80s,
a teenager.
in the 80s, 70s, 80s.
When we joined the North End pool, we were like, I don't know, are they going to let us in?
Right.
Because they had a reputation for not letting Jews in.
They did.
And there was not.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember any African Americans there, even in the early 2000s at North End. I think it's much more diverse now, but that was we're talking about 15 years ago.
Right. So
Yeah.
let's kind of shift gears kind of into a little bit of a success story, because you guys did go over to Daniel Boone. There was some. You want to tell that story about there were some racial tensions that were brewing up at Daniel Boone. You want to talk about how the Pottstown branch of the NAACP got involved in that?
Yes.
And what you did?
Yeah, we have our two investigators, Bob Bowers and Sandy Bowers here. They handled that latest investigation for Daniel Boone. But Newstell and I been involved with Daniel Boone when he was alive. It's been 12 years or more that we got the call to go to Daniel Boone. And the first call we got was somebody had wrote in the bathroom that they're going to kill all the ends.
Right.
And so a couple of black parents that were at Daniel Boone, the school district took them and put them in a room with their kids. So they called us. But they called Newstell. Newstell called me, and we shot up there. And that's when we found out what was happening. They had the state police out, and they weren't notifying nobody in the public. They interviewed Newstell and I, 69 News. And my comment was, you send a robocall out if we have a snowstorm coming on, you shut the school down with snow, but you won't send a robocall out with a threat to black students. That, somebody wants to kill all the black students. You wanted to keep that hush-hush. So we went to a school board meeting, and they had state police, they had human relations, they had people from the DC civil rights organizations were there, lined up all up front. So Newstell, and when Newstell was going to school board meetings, they would cut his mic off and shut him down. And so Superintendent Otto, he was the superintendent. So we're at the school board meeting, Newstell, and we had a lady, Miss Monica Lacey, was trying to address Mr. Otto. And that's when I first really seen how bad it was. And he kept just ignoring her and just wouldn't even acknowledge her. And I'm sitting there, and other black parents got up to speak, and they were trying to express their concerns and the fear for their children. And it was like a lot of people there. And I'm sitting there, and I got so upset. So I got up on the mic. And so I asked I looked at Superintendent Otto, not Amato. Ooh, boy. You're gonna get beat up. Superintendent Otto. And I tried to address him. And he just wouldn't even look at me. So I had to say, man, look at me when I'm talking to you.
Right.
I said, didn't I tell you, look at me? I had to get to that point.
Right.
And you could hear a pin drop in the whole auditorium. First, he disrespected my president, organization that people have sacrificed their lives for.
Sure.
You don't just do that. You don't do that. Then you're ignoring black parents, and you're ignoring a friend of mine, Monica Lacey, and other black females. You just don't do that.
Right.
Especially when they're talking about their child. And once I addressed him and told him how I felt, it just opened up the floodgates. And that's when we found out how bad it was at Daniel Boone. We had a mother stand up and talked about her daughter was so afraid for her black friend that she walked with him down the halls, rode the bus with him, ate lunch with him, because she was afraid that if they shoot him, they got to shoot me. And that's when it all started coming out, the racism and how bad it was. So they went to the No Place for Hate, and it died down, at least we thought. But it really didn't. They just kept it hush-hush. Then I got a call when I first became the president. That's one of the calls about a complaint.
This is the more recent issue that I'm thinking.
So I went up there, and I dealt with that a little bit. But the superintendent up there at the time was Superintendent Harris, a black superintendent. So we went up there for some parents, and he would not let us in the room. He told the principal at the time, President McKnight, don't let him in the room to help represent some parents. So we sat out there waiting. But you have a black superintendent dealing with racism. You have a black organization up there just to assist in the help. We gathered all these people, Mr. John Foster and Reverend Devin, and a diverse group of black people to come sit down and talk to the staff to give them their experiences. And we was going to set up a program where we would go up and work with the staff and share our stories and then incorporate some students. And that was all received. Superintendent Harris shut that down.
Okay.
So then we got another call, and this is where Bob Bowers and Sandy Bowers got involved with a student, and it was so bad where they were running through the hallways with Confederate flags. They were using the N-word. They was using sayings like, we'll whip you, go back to Africa, and nothing was being done. And it got so bad that we had to we had to get the Attorney General's office involved. We had to get the Human Relations Commission involved, and they did training, and now we had to contact Bob, what office did we contact in D.C. for Daniel Boone? U.S. Department of Education, Office of Civil Rights. And actually, they looked into it, and they sent a recommendation, and it still didn't do nothing.
Okay.
And we had to go back up again. And then we had, Bob and Sandy actually filed a law filed a claim with the U.S. Education and Civil Rights. They did one on their own just to keep it going. And we just got another phone call. Hey, brother, we got another phone call the other day about the N-word being used. I got phone calls where parents were taking their children from elementary school, were taking them out. I mean, you had elementary school kids calling black kids the N-word on the bus.
Wow.
And the bus driver hears it.
So where are we at with trying to address this? What I mean, is there any kernel of success in any of this stuff?
But there was.
Do you think you're going to be having some success in getting some of these programs instituted?
Well, I think we have some success, but we have Berks County. In that part of Berks County, it's very bad with you have to say racism.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
call it what it is.
you have to say what it is.
And so in my opinion, it's very bad. So you may have success with the school trying to implement programs, but you got to get the students to buy in.
Well, and
where does it start?
Students, it starts at home.
It starts
of
at
course.
home.
I mean, when it's happening that young, you've got 5, 6, 7-year-olds.
Yeah.
There's only one place that's coming from.
Yeah.
That's coming from home.
This from
And
home.
so you might want to try to hope that you can reach those kids to break that cycle.
Yeah,
right?
I heard a saying where somebody said, "Racist, just breed racist."
Sure.
And if you can't break that
Right.
and get
Right.
all young white people to realize that you can't do that.
Who is the educator? I want to say was in the Midwest someplace like Minnesota. This was in the 60s. She was a teacher in, I think it was elementary or middle school that did that experiment with the
called
kids.
The Eye of the Storm.
Yes.
And I can't think of that.
I can't
lady's
remember,
name.
but it's like you need to you need to go in with one of those programs, like really.
I went to Exeter School District too during the same time.
Okay.
They had issues up there at Exeter.
Right.
Same thing. They had Confederate flags and everything, and we met with the superintendent up there, and I'm talking to him, and both places, they more concerned about the public, in my opinion, what the public thinks about it.
Okay.
And like with Exeter, he said that we had graduation, and he had the graduation at the Reading Sovereign Center, whatever you call that.
Yeah.
So he said we had all this extra police for protection. And I'm sitting there thinking, what do you mean by that? So it was my turn to, close out. So I said, so what do you mean you had all the security and protection for the graduation? He said, well, with the incidents that we had, and with Reading being a city of blacks and Hispanics, they was afraid that they were going to come disrupt. So I said to him, well, did you provide the same type of security and protection for the black students who were being attacked in your school, who felt threatened? He didn't know what to say.
Right.
And that was very disturbing, so that showed me it's about their image and do you really care about the students? And so he said that one thing that he said about they suspended 2 students for fighting. Because after a while, some people just can't handle, they just lash out. And the black student lashed out and got to a fight with a white student. So he said, Johnny, we suspended them both, gave them the same type of suspension. I said, well, why did they both get the same suspension? He said, well, they were both fighting. I said, well, what about the one who used the N-word over and over? They had a teacher they caught on video at that school district, repeated the N-word because somebody squatted on a desk, and the student took a video of it. I had to represent a student because he got tired of the racism and he wanted out of the team and off the team and go to another school. I had to go over to call out a PIAA to represent him because Exeter tried to block him from playing football anywhere else. Look, he got picked up at a private school down in
Why would they try to block him from playing football?
because it was coming down in football season and he wanted to get out. Well, he had to appeal it. But anyway, I said to him, you need to institute programs where if you use racial slurs, no matter what it is, no matter if it's against blacks, against Jews, against homosexuals, it doesn't matter who. There need to be a policy that dictates you get disciplined that way. So he should have got 2 or 3 days more suspension because he initiated.
Yeah, it was a more
because he assaulted the black student first by calling him the N-word.
Right.
He didn't physically assault him, but he verbally assaulted him.
There is a legal principle called fighting words, and racial epithets are included in fighting words.
Jane Elliott.
But I think we're getting
Jane Elliott is the educator I was thinking of, by the way.
Yeah. But I think we're getting some success. You just got to keep putting pressure on them.
Right.
And you got to start you got to have some type of communication, education, and get all young people to understand that it's not accepted. But to be honest, it came about after President Trump got in office.
Right.
it really
You
was
saw
an
You
uptick.
saw an uptick in that
Yeah.
after Trump.
Yes,
course.
militias,
Well,
uptick
it
in
became
hate
because
crimes,
then it became
everything.
It became allowed.
Yeah.
It became allowed.
Well, it started
acceptable.
militias started building underneath Obama. They got afraid. You got a black president. I don't know why. They got afraid. But then they came out. Before, you didn't have nobody just openly just say stuff to you. You could tell how somebody felt about you by their body language. But now they just openly say what they want to say.
It was just blatant.
Oh, they said what they
Nobody
want to
was
say.
even trying to hold back.
Well, all kind of hateful symbols.
I think what it did was some of the ways in which Trump communicates and the things that he says, it made people who harbor those types of sentiment, it made them okay.
Made it okay.
It validated them.
It validated them. If the president of the United States can talk like that,
then
I can
sure,
too.
trickle down, right?
Yeah, how you gonna tell your child to be respectful in school when the president just says he can walk up and grab a woman by her, you know what?
Right, exactly.
Or
Exactly.
Make fun of
The most
handicapped
powerful
people.
man make fun of handicapped
That's out the
people and
window.
everything. How can you sit there and tell your child?
Right.
So they just open the door. I can just say what I want to say. He says it.
Right.
Right. So let's get into, you talked about two of the people that are in our studio audience or in the peanut gallery, as we call it. And there's other people that you mentioned from the community who actually some of these names should be familiar to people on the show. We've talked about some of these other people. How can somebody who's watching the show tonight who wants to get involved with the NAACP, what can someone do to either get involved with one of these causes that you're behind, become a member of your organization? How can people in the community contribute to the Pottstown branch of the NAACP?
So we have a membership lady here, Miss Paula Corson. She could probably answer that, but I'm gonna try to skim through it. She would know better. But you can go online to NAACP and to the national office. Am I right?
I also put up a link to your local office.
Yeah.
So that's on the screen for people right now.
Yeah.
So they can follow that link.
Well, y'all got me hot and sweating in here now, Lord.
It is a little warm in here today. It is a little warm.
I told you before.
I know
the show.
it come. I know something.
I told you
come
before the show we might get into some
Man,
stuff.
I may have to call my head of security, Mark Gibson, down here.
So I'll back it up a little bit from that. So why should somebody want to be involved? I mean, obviously, everybody should want to fight for social justice and civil rights for everybody, right? But first we can dispel the myth that the NAACP is only for Black people. Right?
Nah.
So,
it was started by Black and white.
Right.
I
think that's a misconception
Yeah,
that people
some of the
have.
first probably 5 or 6 presidents were white.
Right.
I mean, I don't believe a Black president came head of the NAACP to around the 1960s, but most of them most of the presidents were white in the beginning.
Right. So we'll just dispel that myth right there.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in social justice and civil rights for all, equal rights for all, then
I'll tell you a
this is
story
your
real
organization.
Newstell and I was somewhere, and a white gentleman walked up and said something to Newstell about what you're saying. How do I become a member of the NAACP? Do I have to be Black? So Newstell said, we're the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. He said, now what color are you? Man said, I'm white. So Newstell said, okay, because you colored then.
Yeah,
You're
that's a
a
color.
person
White's
of
a color.
White's a
White's a
color.
color.
But then the man
there you
started
go.
turning red. So Newstell said, you just turned another color
Right.
now. So you got 2 different colors in a matter of 30 seconds.
2 for the price
So,
of 1.
yeah, you can join.
Right.
So, but really, anybody who wants to advocate, we advocate for people.
Sure.
We're not like really a social service group. We advocate for people. If you care about mankind, if you care about helping people, the NAACP is a good group to join. It only costs you $30 a year.
Mm-hmm.
Our membership, our general membership, I have to give a shout out to everybody who bought a membership. Because without them buying the membership, I cannot do what I do. Bob and Sandy, my wife, Emmanuel Wilkerson, Annette Cobb, a bunch of leaders, Pastor Lockley, Larry Cohen. I'm talking about the leadership. Miss Olivia Coleman, our new secretary. Miss Sean Morris, who's doing blood drives for us. He's with the Red Cross. We could not do what we do without membership.
Right.
So it only costs $30 a year.
Right, and the membership, you need to have things like you need to
Yeah.
pay for the upkeep of your website and to promote things like
Yeah.
the different programs that you've got.
Yeah, but that and our membership is what allows us to do what we do. We don't
Sure.
have 50 members or more. We cannot be a
Yeah,
branch.
so that's your tipping point where you need to have at least 50 members.
Yeah.
So,
But if you really care about people and you want to help people and you want to fight against discrimination, you want to fight against social injustice, you want to fight against fair funding. That's one of our biggest issues right now. The
School
state,
district fair.
yep, the state NAACP is one of the lead plaintiffs, and the fair funding have been fighting it since the very beginning. Emmanuel Wilkerson and I went up way back when Jeff Sparagano was the superintendent. We was one of the first group with John Amato and some students went up to Harrisburg. But you really don't hear a lot about the NAACP fighting that did a lead plaintiff. There's a lot of credit going to a lot of superintendents who have jumped on board, which is nothing wrong with that. But for some reason, when you read the press, it just says groups, but they don't want to give acknowledgement, in my opinion, to the oldest civil rights organization in the world who's been fighting for education back when Brown versus the Board of Education with the late Thurgood Marshall. We've been fighting for fair education and funding for our young people and for everybody.
Right.
But yet you don't really hear too much about us being involved. But they don't mind putting black children's faces up.
Right.
When it comes to fight for fair
Right.
funding, they want to throw our black faces up,
Right.
But you don't want to hear the organization give it this problem.
so
That's just me.
I'm gonna
No, I
throw,
probably got
I'm
somebody
gonna
mad
throw,
about that.
throw a gauntlet down. I'm
Okay.
gonna throw a Porchcast gauntlet down. I
Okay.
want at least 5 people that are watching that are not currently members to join to become a
Yeah.
general member of the
There you go.
NAACP.
Five,
So
I
throw
want
it
50.
out.
I want 50 members.
Oh, we don't even have 50 people watching, I don't think.
Yeah.
But hopefully we can get 5 people
I was a
that
member
are not currently
before,
members.
and I
to
let my
sign up.
membership lapse.
All right, well, get on it.
There's one. I'm going to sign up tonight,
All
so
right.
that's one.
All right.
Uh,
Hey, Josh
We'll
Park,
get,
thanks for
we'll
tuning
get
in.
the other ones.
Yeah.
So
And
have
your husband
your
will sign up.
Yes.
have your membership person watch their numbers. Let's
Yes.
see if we can creep them up
Yes.
a little bit after
Mhm.
tonight's show.
Right.
Josh Park, who's a local author, is saying
Nope,
that.
you're thinking of the wrong person. Josh is the pastor.
Oh,
Yeah,
Josh
we
Park.
know
Yeah.
Oh,
we know
I'm
Pastor
sorry.
Parks.
Yeah.
Who was,
Josh Taylor is the
I was
author.
thinking Josh Taylor.
Sorry,
Josh
too many
Park.
Joshes.
We worked with him in the past.
Okay.
We worked with him on a children's Christmas party.
He says thank you
Okay.
for all the good work you do and how you help families and neighbors in need.
But you got to think, we give a shout out to Josh
I mean,
Parks because Josh
That
does,
dude.
Reverend
right?
Parks does a lot.
Yep.
You know, him and
Sure
I
does.
rode him down in Penn Village. I mean, not Penn Village, Bright Hope, handing out food one time. And we were driving up the street, just stopping and ask people, you want something to eat? And people were just running and we just jumping out of the
Yeah.
truck, handing stuff. So he's been involved with the kids' Christmas party and been an active member and is one of those unsung heroes that a lot of people don't recognize. But Pastor Parks is a very good access to Pottstown community.
Excellent.
Susie Kennedy saying that she's going
Hey,
to
Susie.
join. She picked up an application at the blood drive at the Ricketts
Mhm.
Center. So
Great.
We
you
have another
mentioned
blood drive coming up in March at the YMCA. That's one of the groups I'm going to partner with,
So let me.
that. Okay.
trying to build up the YMCA again.
All right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to add that blood drive to
Mhm.
our
Johnny,
news and
Johnny,
events.
what's the date?
And
I don't know the date of the blood drive. It's in the newsletter.
Oh, okay. We'll
Yeah.
get it.
We'll get it.
I'll look it
All
up.
right.
now, this was one of the other things that I wanted to do with you, and it's turning into a kind of a natural segue here is I wanted you to give some shout outs or to talk about some of the other organizations in Pottstown or the surrounding area
Mhm.
that you've been working with. So
Yeah.
the YMCA. you've been
Yeah,
working
just
with-
started re-engaging with the Y because if we fought to keep them here, and I gave my word that I would still support them. And I have a membership, and so I've been getting engaged with the young director, Mr. Jonas Floyd. He
Okay.
joined the branch, and so I'm reaching out, and and why I'm fighting for the Y to make it successful. Chuck Galati can't do it all.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much money Chuck got. I know he got more money than me, but he always makes me buy the hot sausages at Bruner's, so he's always broke when we go to Bruner's, but he can't do it all. So all the groups that were there fighting for the Y, I want you to come back and support the Y. You wanted the Y to stay here. All these school districts. If I walked into a room at the community college, big, huge table full of community leaders fighting for the Y, but are you back supporting the Y? And so I gave my word to Sean Elliott and to everybody else. Oh, I'm just not going to grandstand, and that's what you think I'm doing, to get in the paper, to fight to keep you here. No, I want to support you. And I think that's an institution that needs to be supported by our community, by the borough, the school districts, and every nonprofit needs to come together and help build that back up because they have a lot to offer.
Right.
But
And
go ahead.
So you got the why.
Yeah.
You're working with the school district on
Yeah.
fair funding, right?
Fair
so that's
funding.
another organization or
Yeah.
entity that you
Yeah.
work with.
Hobart's
I know-
Run.
Hobart's Run.
Yeah, Hobart's. Yeah, that's my girl, Kathy. If I don't say nothing about Kathy Sitko, I'll
Right.
be in trouble. But Kathy is a big supporter,
Yeah.
big community supporter, and she's actually helps us with our communication sometimes. But her group, they really support the community. We work with my sister and mentor, Stacy Woodland of the YWCA.
Okay.
She's always there for us. She keeps us in the loop when she does something. We do the same for her. But she's also there to slap me upside the head when I say something wrong, to give me some guidance, but to keep me straight, And so I gotta give a special shout out to Stacy Woodland. Also the Carousel, Gail Yoder. We partnered with the Carousel. We did some vaccine clinics with the Carousel. The Ricketts Center, Ms. Jocelyn Charles. We support them, and we have underneath Annette Cobb, the woman on NAACP, to do the bath and what's
the bath and the laundry.
Yeah, for the
right.
homeless.
For the homeless.
Yeah.
And her and Olivia Coleman, and they go every Thursday. I don't know if it's every Thursday. I don't know how many Thursdays of the month they go, but they're there to provide underwear, socks, winter clothes, gloves, and the homeless come in and get a shower.
Is that at the Ricketts? Where
That's
is that?
at the Ricketts
Okay.
Center. Yeah, we have fed the homeless at the Ricketts Center.
Mhm.
Now I have to say this: they gave the Ricketts Center to that Boardtown group, but we did vaccine clinics there. We do that feeding, the bath and shower for the homeless. I don't see all those volunteers they said they had. All those volunteers don't show up.
So you need
We ran the vaccine clinics with Jocelyn and her assistant and NAACP members and Nick's Pharmacy, but I didn't see all them volunteers show up.
right.
So
Well,
I
they
have
gotta
to
come
say
all
that.
the way from Boyertown.
Wow, whoa, but they
Right?
got
They
mad when I
come
went over
all the
there.
way, yeah.
When I went over there to introduce myself, they got mad at me for going over there.
So
Why'd you
here's-
go over there without calling? Like I got called, you go to Boardtown.
Well, maybe that's another way because there's a lot of people. Amy and I are contacted on a regular basis about people that want to come on the show because they're doing something to help homeless
Mhm.
people. So maybe this is another avenue for every people out there searching for a way to help the homeless.
Direct them to these programs, right?
Yeah.
Right. Team up with the NAACP. Team up with an organization that's already in existence.
You don't need to recreate the wheel.
Yeah.
We don't need another
Just add to it,
nonprofit.
yeah.
We don't need
Add another
another.
spoke to it.
Just
Right.
there's already programs out there. There's
Yeah.
already support.
But that's a big thing. One of our members, Sean Morse, and her daughter, they actually volunteered and would spend the night at some of the shelters
Wow.
with the homeless,
Mhm.
but they didn't have no volunteers to spend the
Right.
night.
Okay.
So Miss Sean Morse and I can't think of her daughter's name. Sean's going to beat me up for not thinking of her daughter's name, but they were actually volunteering to spend the night at shelters.
Uh-huh.
And I give a special shout out to them churches that open up their doors at night for the homeless. I don't know if I think they couldn't do it because of the COVID, right? But it's, that's a special thing when you open up your door and let somebody just come and have a place to stay.
Mhm.
And we actually toured the homeless shelter at the St. Al's.
Okay.
We were supporting them. I don't know where they stand at right now. The borough was trying to
Yeah.
shut them down,
It's
I thought.
It's a tricky situation.
But you gotta have a place for people.
I agree with you.
You got to. I don't care.
I
Find a way.
Right. I agree with you 100%. And I'm involved in helping the homeless and the less fortunate.
Yeah.
Being involved with the cluster, the
Yeah.
Pottstown cluster of religious communities. I will say this, though. When it comes to the shelter at St. Al's, we've got to find a way to get that better organized. I live in that neighborhood.
Okay.
Yep.
And
as do I.
so does Amy. Since they've started doing that, the amount of trash on the
Mhm.
street around St. Al's has increased.
Mhm.
I've watched it happen. The people that use that resource aren't always careful about cleaning up after themselves. That's the most polite way I can say
Right.
it.
Yeah, but
And if we're gonna have
they have
that,
mental issues. They may have
I
mental
don't
issues.
know. I
When you
don't
say
know. But
they're not careful, maybe they have some mental issues going on while they're homeless.
it's
Nobody in their right mind wants to be homeless. You want to be homeless?
I'm not
You
disagreeing
wanna be
with you,
homeless?
John. I'm not
Okay,
arguing with
so
you. But
I know I don't want to be
if we're
homeless.
going to do something to help the homeless in that neighborhood,
Yeah,
we also have to do something to support the people that live in that neighborhood.
I understand that.
Who have to deal with the outcomes
Yeah.
of having a homeless
the
shelter.
unintended consequences.
Unintended-
Of course,
the
that's not
unintended
something that
Mhm.
the organization wants to see.
I don't want to sit on this table and say I'm against helping the homeless.
Okay.
Because I'm not.
All right.
But if we're gonna help them, we have to address some of these other issues. There's other impacts that are going on in some of our neighborhoods.
I understand.
That's my
I understand that. Yeah, I understand
Yeah.
that.
So can
anyway,
we?
I don't know how we can do that.
Yeah, no, but that's a whole show in and of
That's
itself.
yeah,
right?
that's another
we
show.
we need more conversations.
Mhm.
We need more people getting
Yeah.
involved. The more people that are involved, the more ideas.
Yeah.
And maybe we
Then
can
maybe
come
more
up with
Yeah.
solutions.
something.
Right.
Mhm.
So here's another group that I know that you've done some stuff
Did you?
with.
But did you talk to the homeless shelter up here at the church? How they handle it?
Listen, Johnny, I don't want to do a homeless show. I'm
No,
so-
I'm just saying. I'm just giving you a suggestion. Go up there because we have Miss Annette Cobb, who's head of the WIN, and she works there. So stop up there and talk to the director
I've
up there.
talked
Maybe
to
they can give you some ideas.
Johnny, I've talked to all. Believe me, I'm up
Okay.
to my eyeballs in
Okay.
homelessness and feeding the
All
hungry.
right. All right.
I'm a member of the board of the Pottstown Cluster of Religious Communities. We deal with these issues.
I heard you was unhappy with the
regularly.
way.
Huh?
I heard you was unhappy with how the homeless is being treated. Is that true? Religious clusters. You unhappy with paid or whoever is not? Yeah, I thought the religious. What are they called?
The Pottstown Cluster of Religious Communities.
Oh, that's something else. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just heard there was a little bit of.
No, I'm talking about the food bank. The clusters.
Okay, all right. Clusters.
On the
Okay,
corner.
yeah.
Yeah.
Up there on King Street.
Correct.
All right.
All right. So here's another organization that I wanted to. I know you guys are teaming up.
We work with the Salvation Army too. We help out with the Salvation Army.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, we've talked about just
About-
about every
So
organization.
I will wait to hear
We-
what you're going to say. But
We
I
have a
was
gonna
bunch.
say
We have a
the
bunch of churches
Oh,
that
okay.
we religious affairs that
Yeah.
we work with. Pastor Valentine, Pastor Dow Brown, Pastor Locke, who's in charge of religious affairs. The late Bishop Dedman, the Victus Ministries. We work with. I try to work with. I'm trying to get a strong connection with Bishop Mike Anthony. I'm going to try to work on him. But we try to get the late Pastor Brooks, the new pastor there. Forgive me for not mentioning his name, but that church. We're trying to work with all these churches to bring them together. Miss Pastor Nicole Jackson and our loyal member, Pastor Carter Lester, First Presbyterian Church. Him and his wife.
Yep.
They are one of the biggest supporters of
They're great.
NAACP.
They're so
And
dynamic.
their church is so, I mean, they support us no matter what we do.
Right.
So I got to give a special shout out to Pastor Carter. He is wonderful and he's there. He's there for us. He's there for the community. So stop by and visit him and visit some of the churches I mentioned and thank them for what they're doing.
Right on. I was going to talk about the Rotary because the Rotary,
Oh, yeah.
the Pottstown Rotary has been very helpful.
We work with
us.
them. Yeah.
And I know that you had spoke at one
We
of
spoke
their,
at one of their, I guess it was dinners.
their general meeting.
Yeah. At Brookside.
And that's another organization that's looking for more diversity, right? They want to
Yeah.
get more diversity
Yeah.
within their group.
Mm-hmm.
So we're coming down to the bottom of the show.
I want to bring up one more thing.
Yeah,
Did
go
you
ahead.
work recently also with the police department?
Oh,
on the
yes,
diversity training or
yes,
whatever.
we-
I don't know what the program was called.
We work with the police department. So there's a misconception that the NAACP and a lot of the black community has an issue with the police. No, we have issues with bad police.
Right.
So that's why we push that training so they can become aware of what the community sees with them, and so that they can better deal with addressing certain
Sure.
communities.
I mean, they have to understand that the community that they're working in and what the
Yeah,
concerns and the perceptions and misconceptions are of the police and vice versa.
Yeah.
Right. So they have to understand, everybody's got to understand what lens the other person is looking through.
Yeah. So that's one of the reasons why we want to push it, because that negative stuff coming out about defunding police and all that. No, you just want to add programs, social programs that, instead of spending so much money on weapons and all that, to look like,
militarization.
yeah, look like the National Guard when you show up, give some money allocated towards back to the community. So you can have programs for the young people, get involved. I think Mr. Terrence Shawwell had a basketball program, and he was very instrumental in reaching out to Chief Mick, and Chief Mick responded. And he had all these kids up. I mean, Terrence had so many kids up at the Ricketts Center for this basketball program. So he was trying to coach, run the program, and keep an eye on everything. So he reached out to the police department, and they responded, came up, walked around, engaged with the young people.
Right.
I had a story where a young girl, one of the police officers fixed a bicycle wheel, and another police officer seen a young girl and her mother out and say, "Hey, I seen you play basketball tonight." So that builds relationship.
Right, and you know each other.
Yeah, but it was the fact that they got out their cars and they walked around and they hung out and they shook hands and they watched the game. And so we wanted the community, don't listen to that negative stuff that's coming in on all the cable news channels and all that. No, people do not want to get rid of police. You need law and order. I mean, not law and order. You need police to protect and serve.
Sure.
The law and order officers are the ones that cause the problems, the ones who are untrained that, and we wanted to let people know that when they talk about the Black Lives Matter, then you had all this stuff coming out about blue Lives Matter and this and that, Confederate flags started flying and black and white flags started being posted on people. We will die for our rights. And we sponsor Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter basically is we want everybody know that our life matters like your life matters. That's all it was.
All it means. Yep.
So now people turn it into some type of radical organization. But no, when you see black kids and black people being shot on TV, when you see a young black child who is 7 years old, had a toy gun, officer gets right up and just shoots him and kills him. What else you supposed to say? So that's where them slogans came about and they got twisted around.
Right.
So we wanted to push past that and let the community know that no. If you bad, we're going to come after you. Just like if I'm bad, Chief Mick going to come arrest me. He going to send somebody to come knock on my door.
Right.
So it's the same thing, goes back and forth. So that's why we did that. But we wanted them to be aware of the perception goes back to slavery, how the police were only up north, they were formed, but down south, they were formed for one reason, to go hunt down slaves. And that's passed down from generation to generation to generation. So that's one of the main things. But I wanted to throw that out there about the Black Lives Matter and defund and all that.
We got to talk about it. And whoever came up with that slogan, defund the police, was just a bad slogan.
Stupid.
Yeah.
Anybody,
it meant well, but it was just it was worded wrong.
Right. And I agree with you.
My opinion.
No.
I may get in trouble for that, but
But I know that rethink the police doesn't sound as sexy, but
it
that's
been
really
reform.
What it means. Rethink. Just rethink it. Let's rethink it. Let's rethink how we're coming at all this stuff.
Policing reform.
Right.
You was a police officer.
That sounds
years.
very
You know what I'm
boring.
talking about.
Yeah, we have to make a better effort in community policing, getting out there and actually building relationships within the community. So Jonny Corson from the Pottstown NAACP has been our guest. Stick with us. We still have some news and events that we've got to cover.
One thing, a special shout out we have a imam who's head of the mosque in Pottstown.
Yes.
Please, there's a misconception of Muslims in this country. He is one of my best friends, and he's younger than me, but he's like my mentor. I go by this store on Evans Street, but that mosque does so much for the community, but they don't advertise.
Right.
He has given money to the Pottstown School
Johnny,
District.
I don't know where the mosque is.
It's right off down the street from Washington and High Street. It's about 4 doors up. You see the sign.
On High Street? It's in the 400 block, right?
Yeah, right before you get to Washington. But they do so much. They
near
feed
the old Cannings. Am I getting
Correct.
Right? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, they feed homeless, and they give money to various organizations. But I just wanted to give a special shout out that I work with Iman and his mosque. So please,
nice.
Yeah.
Listen, if you've even listened to what half of Jonny said, he's given you about 150 different ideas about how you can get involved with the NAACP, with some organization.
The first of which being you can join and become a member. I want to see
and you can be white.
People at least.
You can be white. You can be white.
You can be white because, as we have already established, white is a color.
That's what Bob and Sandy asked. We met them on our Fight for the Y,
right.
And we tried to recruit them. They both said to us, "Are we allowed to join because we're white?"
Yeah.
And look, they've been with us.
And my friend Larry Cohen is one of the officers,
Larry Cohen,
right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Larry gets me in trouble. Larry gets me in trouble.
All right, you want me to bust through some news real quick?
And
all right, I'm just going to go through the
go
stuff
ahead.
that's immediately coming up.
at the top of the news too, I want to correct
Your
my
correction?
yeah. So
There's
because
your
I know more
correction.
people tuned in.
Yep.
In our episode where I talked about the Ricketts Center and I also talked about Dick and Dave Ricketts, I accidentally, inadvertently attributed the naming of the Ricketts Center to Richard Jr. The Ricketts Center is named after Richard Ricketts Sr. I hurt someone's feeling. I misspoke. I am now correcting the record. I also want to remind people this is an open platform. So if you hear me make a mistake or hear one of us make a mistake, or you just want to participate in the conversation, put it up in the chat. Chime in.
Chime in. All right. This
We
weekend.
done?
No, well, we
we
do
got-
news. We'll go
we
bust
got-
through the news
Oh,
fast.
oh.
I mean, you can go if you want to, but
No, I said
all right. News. This weekend, Shrek the Musical at the high school. I'm going. Are you going?
Yeah, I'm going to go to the gala. I can't stop calling it the gala.
The special event. I'll be there.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm going to
great.
be there.
We'll
I
see
got
ya.
tickets.
Excellent. Looking forward to it. The productions are always great. I don't know how to buy tickets. Go to the school district website or to the foundation for Pottstown Education website and buy some tickets. Great.
Joe's watching. He's going to, I guarantee,
something
he'll
up.
put something up. Yeah.
Career Cafe job training workshops coming to Pottstown. This is March 4th. YWCA Tri-County Area's first career cafe at the Adult Education and Training Center from 9 a.m. to noon on Friday, March 4th. It will be at the old YMCA, now called the Complex, 724 North Adams Street. And you can go to the YW Tri-County website for information on that. Skip that. Let's talk about our friend Bob Redinger at Key Bank.
Bob Redinger. Yeah.
Redinger wanted us to know about their community mortgage program with up to 100% loan value.
That's correct.
That means zero down. Did I do that math right?
That's correct.
Okay.
So you do have to have some money to come to the table. At a minimum, you have to have about $4,000 to come to the table, but you can get that money from any source.
Mhm.
So it could be a gift, it could be a grant, and there are some grants available that can give you up to $10,000 towards a purchase of a home.
Money out there.
But that is 100% financing. That means you will be able to finance 100% of the home value.
Yes. So if you are interested in that, go talk to Bob Redinger. He is the branch manager at Key Bank down there by Wawa on High Street.
That's correct.
Yep. Tompkins Vis Bank has a first-time home buyer seminar coming up in March, Saturday, March 19th, Saturday, April 9th. So go to the Tompkins Vis Bank website and get information on that. They also have a low down
They have
payment
a
or zero.
99%.
99. That means that you only have to put 1% down. So
1%.
let me do this tricky math, Matt. If I was buying a $100,000 house and I needed to put 1% down,
That's
that means I would only need $1,000.
That's correct.
Right? Which is less than rent in most places in this town.
Joe Rufsevich is saying that the tickets are sold out.
Oh, goodness.
But the show tickets are still available on the school district website.
The tickets for the special event are
That's-
sold out,
okay.
but there's still tickets for just the show.
There you
Right.
go. I
I'm
read
looking
that.
forward
I
to some of
butchered
that.
up.
I'm looking forward to some of that delicious food from the culinary students.
My son's going to be one of the chefs.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I look forward to it. All right, that's coming up. There, I don't have to do that. Our friend Mike Murphy wanted us to know about the Vets Stand Down this weekend because it is the final Saturday of the month. So that is at Memorial Park on Saturday, February 26th from 10 to noon. Food, non-perishable items, takeout meals, and clothing. That is, if you are a vet, you can go and get some help there, and they can also help you with whatever connections you need if you're need help with services and things like that.
He's saying "Oorah."
Yes.
I am working with Mike Murphy and now the Pottstown branch of the NAACP to identify Black veterans from Pottstown and the surrounding areas. We're taking anybody,
Mhm.
right? But what I am specifically interested in is any decorated Black veterans from
Okay.
Pottstown and the surrounding area. thanks to Johnny's help, we now have a more extensive list than we did before. I'm going to start reaching out to those people and collecting their stories, and we're going to start telling their stories on Porchcast Pottstown. So if you know a Black veteran, if you know a decorated Black veteran from Pottstown and the surrounding area, please contact myself or Johnny or Mike Murphy.
Got it. Cool. That's a neat project.
So this is easy.
Yeah.
Well, I thought you guys were going to hit me with school board meetings and CRT and all that.
No.
All right. Where did this come from? Did you send me this second annual Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Arts Competition?
Yes.
It starts with me. Final submission Monday, February 28th.
Yeah, so you got 4 days.
Right. So this is for kids from ages 6 to 20. And it is an arts competition. The theme is It Starts With Me. So you must submit artwork based on your interpretation or what it means to you with Dr. King's question. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? So that's the theme of the artwork. Must be on 22 by 28 poster boards. There's a bunch of kind of parameters here. Who is the Pottstown Community Arts?
Pottstown Community Arts.
Very nice.
And I will make sure that
your logo's right on there.
Yeah, that's your sponsor now. You didn't say that.
Yeah, so this is sponsored by the NAACP and Pottstown Community Arts. Sorry, I did not read through this before.
You can go to either of those organizations' Facebook page and find more information about that contest.
Great. I'll be looking forward to seeing the submissions on those. That's all right. All of this stuff is pretty far in the future. We'll talk about this next week since we're running late on time.
Yeah, so we're running late on time,
Yep.
and I want to start promoting a couple of things that are coming up in the future.
We have some other guests coming up too.
Yeah. On March 31st, we're going to have Mick Markovich, who is the chief of police here in Pottstown.
Right.
Specifically, Mick is going to be talking about crime in Pottstown, some real crime data. He's also going to be addressing people's questions, concerns, comments, constructive criticism. It's not going to be a bitch session.
Nope.
If people are interested in submitting questions, concerns, constructive criticism for the show, the March 31st show with Mick Markovich, Chief of Police here in Pottstown, they can send those comments, questions, and concerns to pottstownreports@gmail.com. We're going to collate those questions and concerns and comments, develop some themes, present them to Chief Markovich so that he knows what he needs to prepare for.
Kind of like boil it down to what is most important to people.
Correct.
People will have different questions and different things that they want to know, but we can probably boil it down to several different general themes so that Chief Markovich can address that and we can talk about it. Like Matt said, it's not a bitch session. We want to talk about what we can do, what each of us can do. It's our responsibility to participate in the policing of our own neighborhoods, right? Making it safe. So those are the things that we want to talk about.
So again, if you want to submit questions, comments, concerns, constructive criticism for Chief Markovich for his March 31st appearance on Porchcast Pottstown, please send those emails to pottstownreports@gmail.com.
Right. Next week
is Emmanuel Wilkerson.
Yes. Is he still here? Did he leave? He left. Okay.
He probably had
He's
to go
very busy.
meet with
He had
some
to go
potential voters.
Kiss some babies and shake some hands. Right?
Yes. Emmanuel Wilkerson is a Pottstown graduate, a native of Pottstown, I believe, and he is running for the 24th Senatorial District. He is running to be a PA state senator. Emmanuel is coming on the show on March 3rd.
That's next week.
Emmanuel has also agreed to take questions, comments, and constructive criticism through pottstownreports@gmail.com. If you have a question for Emmanuel for his March 3rd appearance, please email those to pottstownreports@gmail.com.
Right. All right. Break it down.
This has been a lively discussion here on Porchcast Pottstown tonight. We have sat down with Jonny Corson, who is the president of the Pottstown Branch of the NAACP. We are looking for you, Porchcast Pottstown watchers, to join his organization and get involved in the community.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Is that it?
No, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. I am Matt Green. I am your local real estate expert. Please call me if you need help with residential and commercial real estate in the borough of Pottstown or the surrounding areas. Amy Wolf is the lovely office manager at Wolf Baldwin and Associates, bringing you fine legal service in the borough of Pottstown since 1973. We are Porchcast. Let's talk.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
Yeah. Tell your husband and your